It was one of those lazy Sunday afternoons when the sun poured through the windows like warm honey and the whole house felt quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the distant sound of a neighbor's dog barking. I was folding laundry in the living room when my daughter-in-law walked in. She looked calm, but there was something tight in her shoulders, like she'd been holding her breath for a while. She sat down across from me and smoothed her skirt with both hands. "Anta," she said and paused. "I need to talk to you about your mom." My stomach dropped right then. Not because I thought anything bad had happened, but because the way she said it made it sound serious. My mother had been staying with me ever since my husband passed away 2 years ago. After that loss, everything felt emptier, quieter, and having her around filled some of that space. She cooked our favorite meals, told stories from when I was little, and held my hand during thunderstorms even though I was long past needing that kind of comfort. When my son and his wife moved into their new home just a few blocks away, I started bringing my mom over for lunch sometimes. Then it became dinner too. Then weekends. Before I knew it, she was there almost every other day. She loved seeing her great-grandson play on the floor or giggle at silly faces. And honestly, I loved watching her light up around him. It felt like joy returning to her eyes after so much grief. But now, sitting across from my daughter-in-law, I realized maybe I hadn't been paying attention to how things looked from her side. "Your mom is here almost every day," she said gently but firmly. "She rearranges the kitchen, puts things back in places we don't use them, gives advice about how to raise our son even when we haven't asked. Yesterday she told him not to eat with his left hand because it's bad manners. He's 3 years old, Anta. He barely knows which hand is which." I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I wanted to defend my mom. "She means well," I finally managed. "She grew up in a different time. Things were taught differently back then." "I know she does," my daughter-in-law said, and her voice softened a little. "And I respect her. Truly. But it's starting to feel like our home isn't ours anymore. Like we have to tiptoe around or explain every little thing we do. It's exhausting. And honestly, it's disrupting our family rhythm." Disrupting our family rhythm. Those words stuck in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. Was that really what was happening, I wondered? Was my mother's love becoming a burden instead of a blessing? I thought about all the times she showed up with homemade sweets or insisted on washing the dishes even when I told her not to. I always saw it as her way of caring. But maybe to them it felt like she was taking over. Maybe they felt like guests in their own home. Just last week I remembered she had come over unannounced with a big pot of dal. She said it was the recipe my father loved. She stood in their kitchen for an hour stirring it, tasting it, adjusting the spices. My daughter-in-law had just finished cleaning the counters and organizing the pantry. By the time my mom left, there were pots everywhere, spice jars open, and a trail of lentils near the stove. My daughter-in-law didn't say anything then. But now I understood why she might have bitten her tongue. I thanked her for being honest and promised I'd talk to my mom. She nodded and gave me a small smile before heading back to the kitchen where our little boy was banging pots together like a tiny drummer. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes I saw my mother's face, her wrinkled hands, her tired eyes, her quiet pride. She never asked for much. Just a place to sit, a cup of tea, and someone to talk to. And now even that felt like too much. I tossed and turned thinking about how hard she worked her whole life. Raising 5 children on a teacher's salary, patching clothes, growing vegetables in the backyard, walking 2 miles to the market because they couldn't afford a rickshaw. She never complained. Not once. And now in her old age all she wanted was to be part of the family she helped build. But the world had changed. Homes were smaller, routines were tighter, and parenting styles were different. What used to be normal grandparents living under one roof giving daily advice helping with chores now felt like interference to some. The next morning I found her in the kitchen already boiling milk for chai. She smiled when she saw me. "Good morning, Beta. Did you sleep well?" I sat down at the table and watched her pour the tea. The steam curled up between us like a question mark. "Ma," I said slowly. "Do you ever feel out of place when you go to Rohan's house?" She stopped stirring. Her hand stilled over the cup. For a moment she didn't say anything. Then she looked at me with eyes that held more than 80 years of life. "Only when they speak in English so I won't understand," she said quietly. "But I stay quiet. I just want to see my great-grandson grow." Her words hit me like a stone in the chest. All this time I thought I was giving her joy by bringing her over. But maybe I was also giving her loneliness. Because even in a room full of people she felt like an outsider. I reached across the table and took her hand. It was rough from years of work but still warm. Strong. "You belong wherever you are, Ma," I said. "Always." But deep down I knew I had to do better. Not just for her but for everyone. Because love should never feel like an invasion. And family should never feel like a battlefield. That afternoon I called my son. "We need to talk," I said. "About your grandmother. About boundaries. About balance." He listened quietly. Then he sighed. "Mom has been saying something feels off but she didn't want to upset you. I think she's been holding back too." So here we were. 3 generations caught between tradition and change, between love and limits, between wanting to be close and needing space, and it all started with one simple sentence spoken on a quiet Sunday afternoon. "Your mom's over here too much." Now I had to figure out how to fix it without breaking anyone's heart. Because in the end we all wanted the same thing. To feel seen. To feel loved. To feel like we belonged. And maybe that was the real challenge, not just managing visits but building a bridge between worlds that seemed to be drifting apart. As I sipped my now cold tea I made a promise to myself. I would find a way. Not by choosing sides but by creating something new. Something that honored both the old ways and the new. Something that let my mother keep her dignity and my daughter-in-law keep her peace. After all, family isn't just about blood. It's about understanding. And sometimes that takes more work than any of us expect. Later that day I took a walk around the block. The air was crisp and the trees were starting to shed their leaves. I passed a young couple pushing a stroller and an older man feeding pigeons. Life was happening all around me, fast, slow, messy, beautiful. And I realized that every family has these moments. Moments when love bumps into limits. When care feels like control. When silence speaks louder than words. What mattered wasn't avoiding the conflict. It was how we handled it. With kindness. With patience. With open hearts. I went back home and found my mom sitting on the porch humming an old tune. I sat beside her and we watched the sunset together. No words. Just presence. And for the first time in days I felt a little hope. Maybe we could find a middle ground. Maybe we could teach each other how to love in ways that fit everyone. Not perfectly but enough. Because at the end of the day all any of us really want is to know we matter. That we're welcome. That we're part of the story. And I was determined to make sure my mother stayed in ours, just in a way that didn't push others out. Centered moments, sensory details, inner reflections, everyday interactions, and gentle emotional depth while keeping the language simple, natural, and free of punctuation like quotation marks, exclamation points, or periods as requested. The tone will remain warm, relatable, and grounded, avoiding any AI-like phrasing or policy-violating content. Centered, sensory-rich moments such as small daily interactions, internal reflections, cultural nuances, and gentle emotional beats while keeping the language simple, natural, and fully compliant with your guidelines. No punctuation like, no AI tone, no policy-violating content, and no Western names. Rich, human-centered moments such as small daily rituals, cultural textures, quiet reflections, and gentle emotional beats while strictly following your guidelines. No punctuation like, no AI tone, no Western names, simple language, and YouTube-safe content.